Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh, and very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, and welcome to the BAITUL MAQDIS talks, the weekly show, specifically for HALUAN TV, inshallah. And tonight there will be a very special night, right? Because I'm with a brother, even though we are met online, but we are far away from each other. But I'm in Malaysia, and our speaker is from Ankara, Turkey, inshallah. But before I introduce our speaker tonight, inshallah, I would like to welcome you, brothers and sisters, and ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, to share this. If you're watching this channel in Facebook, I'm gladly ask you to share this live, inshallah. And don't forget to push like and leave your comment. Okay, maybe you will maybe by leaving the comment you will be able to track down again any matter you may miss from this show. And if you comfortable to tag your partners, your families, your members, your friends, please do so. Tag their name in the comment section. And if you're watching from a YouTube channel, for our YouTube channel, HALUAN, youtube.com/HALUAN, I'm gladly ask you to push the subscribe button and enable notifications so that you may not miss any HALUAN TV in the near future, inshallah. But tonight, inshallah, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, you may wonder why I'm speaking English. We speak bahasa Melayu lah kan. Tetapi for this tonight, inshallah, this is a very special night because we are having a brothers from different country to be with us tonight. And let me introduce the topic for tonight, inshallah, because this is the topic for tonight is quite, as for me, it's quite not very common to be discussed in Malaysia, especially in Malaysia, because this matter sometimes we really don't feel this situation compared to our Palestinian brothers. What I mean is the prisoner. It is very rare of us to be prisoner in Malaysia because usually once you are being labeled as prisoner, usually it is associated because you are committing a crime, or maybe you're doing something against the law. But the Palestinian, sometimes their case are differences. They are being charged, they're being held captive with no particular reason. Sometimes with something that not make sense. That's why we're having discussion tonight, inshallah. The topic will be the Palestinian prisoner issues, latest developments and ways to help. It sounds a little bit academic, but bear with me. It is a very interesting topic for you to grasp. And inshallah, for the night, let me introduce our speaker tonight. Inshallah, even though I just met him a few minutes ago, but I feel like we're having a good bond here, inshallah. Let me introduce you, Dr. Ali Abo Rezeg. Dr. Abo Rezeg, please welcome. How are you, Doctor?
Thank you, brother. Thank you. My pleasure. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you for joining us tonight. Even though we just met, but I think that you are very much cooperative with us. So, yeah, maybe we will giving much explore for you tonight to deliver the message. And ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, let me introduce a little bit about our speaker tonight, because Dr. Ali is no ordinary person. He's somebody, and he is somewhat really understand what happened in the prison of Israel, especially. And Dr. Ali, he is the Ph.D. holder. Yeah, I get it. You are a Ph.D. holder, right?
Yeah,
PhD holder in international relations. He also seems interested in Palestinian and Gulf study, and sometimes he's opinion editor, contributor for AA, Daily Sabah and Al-Jazeera. Sometimes maybe you may across some of his writing in the news. I think not long ago. Maybe when did last time you write, Dr. Ali?
Days before, actually.
Inshallah, we will. I will share personally on my Facebook the link that Dr. Ali write. Inshallah, we will read together. Inshallah. Right, Dr. Ali. Anything else you want to introduce yourself, please? I give the floor.
It's me, Ali Abo Rezeg. I'm Palestinian from Gaza Strip, from a very, very small refugee camp in the Gaza Strip in Khan Yunis. Actually, I'm
been there before.
here. Eh?
I've been there before, Khan Yunis, in
MashaAllah,
2012.
MashaAllah. My pleasure, brother. I traveled, I left the Gaza Strip for my PhD studies here in Turkey, in Ankara. Just months before, Alhamdulillah, I finished, I defended my thesis. I finished my PhD. I have another master's degree in international relations as well. The PhD is international relations. And here, as you mentioned, I have many contributions for the Anadolu Agency, for Daily Sabah, for MENA Affairs, and Arabi 21, and Al Jazeera. We are writing for sure pro-Palestine articles in a way to, how can I say, to explain more the real conditions of our brothers, sisters languishing behind bars, which are the Palestinian prisoners, our situation in the Gaza Strip, 15 years under blockade, under unjust siege imposed by Israel since 2006, and the expansionist policies of the Israeli policies in West Bank. You know, that huge parts, huge swathes of land in the West Bank got robbed, got stolen by Israel by its expansionist policies of settlements. And here we go. Yeah, I'm very glad, very happy to be with our brothers and sisters in Malaysia. We know very well that our brothers and sisters in Malaysia are true supporters. And I mean it. You are true supporters for the Palestinian cause. And inshallah, we are sure that one day, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's promise, that one day together, we and our brothers, sisters in Malaysia will pray in the most beloved mosque for Muslims across the globe, Al-Aqsa Mosque. Inshallah.
I mean, inshallah, yeah, we are praying that as well. That's why we are looking at some our brothers as Palestine as our hero. That's why many Malaysians want to join forces and fight along with our Palestinian brother, inshallah. Then we will march to Al-Aqsa, inshallah. And
as I told you, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's promise. We do believe in it. For sure, we surely definitely believe in this promise.
No doubt that, yes, very well, very clear. And if I may ask a little bit question, do you cover the news Palestinian behind the bars outside the Palestinian land, for example, maybe in Europe or maybe in some Middle Eastern countries? Do you cover that?
Which cause?
I mean, do you cover the news Palestinian behind the bars, behind the jail, in the prison, outside the?
Yes. Actually, we are covering it. We are covering it on a daily basis. Israel is committing a crime against Palestinian prisoners and their families on a daily basis. Every day, we have a news story comes from the West Bank, for example. From the West Bank, that Israel came and arrested 5, 6, 7, 15, 20 Palestinians. Most of them are children. We have children, we have women, we have, I'll go in details, inshallah. I'm preparing a presentation on the Palestinian prisoners issue. And me myself actually very interested in this issue, the Palestinian prisoners issue. And actually the jailbreak, there was a prison break just 3 months before. During September. And that me actually doubled my efforts, doubled my interests to focus more about the Palestinian prisoners issue. The jailbreak, as I told many of our friends, the jailbreak means that those people languishing behind bars, languishing in the Israeli solitary confinements, those people want more efforts from us as Palestinians living inside or outside to highlight their cause more, to be their voice. They are voiceless. But if they have no voice, if they are voiceless, we should be their voices. We should be their hope for their freedom from the Israeli prisons. That's why I'm preferring to talk about this issue today. That's why when you kindly, thank you, offered me to talk about something in Palestine, I preferred to chose to talk about the Palestinian prisoners issue, because those people after the jailbreak, they wanna us speak more about their issue, to make their issue not only Palestinian, not only Arab, not only Islamic, to make this issue as on the international level, to be their voice on the international level, on the international NGOs, not only the Palestinian NGOs or the Arab and Muslim NGOs. That's why.
Thank you very much. It's very much. We will. I'm getting more anticipated with what Dr. Ali has been briefly described. But inshallah, we will get into that. But let me ask the question, maybe, and Dr. Ali will start delivering the message to us, inshallah. My question is, when we talk about the Palestinian prisoners, and what is the major thing that everyone should understand on this issue? Because we don't talk something without purpose. We have objective. We are very clear. We want what we want to understand from this tonight issue. And then who are the inmates in the prison? You mentioned that there is children mostly, but we will get back. We will get to that later. And I've made a very brief reading that almost 1/5 of the population has experienced imprisonment, and very disturbingly common thing among Palestinians. Sometimes that's why I say that in Malaysia this is not very common. You find someone has experienced being imprisoned, but not for Palestinians. I can say 1/5 of the Palestinian population has been experiencing being jailed, being imprisoned by the Israeli. And have you experienced once, Dr. Ali? Have you experienced behind the bar once? And what made you and what made in Palestine, or maybe the occupied Palestine? What is the reason you could be behind the bars? Please.
Throwing a stone.
Yeah.
Throwing a stone.
Yeah.
Not only throwing a stone, sometimes raising a banner, raising a Palestinian flag.
Oh,
yes, imagine, raising a Palestinian flag is a charge. That even without a charge, even sometimes you are thrown behind bar, not only to throw a stone or raise a banner or raise the Palestinian flag, just for nothing. And I'm talking about the administrative detention, which the Israeli policy on this regard. I'll talk on details about the administrative detention.
Yes.
Sometimes for no charge.
Yeah. Maybe you can start your answer for our question. For my question, that's what is the major understand to understand? What is the major thing to understand this issue?
Shall I start in details?
Yes.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Yeah.
First of all, a special thanks for our brothers and sisters in Malaysia who are organizing this event, for our brothers who prepared the BAITUL MAQDIS talks. Actually, such talks doesn't keep our cause only alive. They are keeping our anti-occupation struggle and anti-apartheid movement ongoing by these shows. Believe me, you are doing a great job in behalf of Palestinians or in support of the Palestinian cause. When I'm talking about the Palestinian prisoners, it's an ongoing suffering. One of the most critical causes for the Palestinian people and their struggle against the Israeli occupation. When we talk about the Palestinian cause, it's refugees, the Palestinian refugees. It's Jerusalem, Al-Quds. It's the Israeli apartheid policies. But most importantly, it's the issue of the Palestinian prisoners. Thousands of Palestinian prisoners who are languishing for years, for decades. Yes, for decades. We have people are languishing for decades behind the Israeli bars. The latest figure we have, now we have 4,850 Palestinian people, Palestinian prisoners, languishing, suffering, on daily suffering in the Israeli jails. We have roughly 543 detainees, prisoners are serving life sentences. And imagine in Arab countries, for example, in many of Arab countries, the life sentence is 25 years. 25 years only. But in Israel, the life sentence is 99 years. 99 years, imagine. If you're slapped 99 years behind jails or behind bars. We have 34 Palestinian prisoners who have been detained for more than 25 years. 34 Palestinian prisoners, more than quarter a century in the Israeli prisons. We have 13 prisoners are detained for more than 30 years, 30 continuous years, 3 decades behind the Israeli bars. We have the number of the administrative detainees, those administrative prisoners. What's the meaning of administrative prisoners? It's a policy, it's a strategy Israel came with that to capture Palestinians, to arrest Palestinians, and to throw them in jails, to put them in jails without charge, without giving them any charge, just telling that this person might in the future commit something against Israel, might in the future throw a stone against Israel, might in the future raise a banner, a Palestinian banner in the street. That administrative detention, as I mentioned, which we have 540 people, those are arrested for no charge, and they are there, thrown there for no trial, alleging that this person, as I mentioned, might plan to do something against Israel. We have nowadays 4 Palestinian prisoners who continue their hunger strike inside the Israeli jails. Imagine we have Kaid Fesfus, this person, a Palestinian prisoner from the West Bank. He ended his hunger strike just yesterday evening. He continued in his hunger strike for more than 131 days. We have nowadays Hisham Abu Hawash, who's in hunger strike for 97 days. We have Ayad Al-Harimi for 61 days, hunger strike, no food. We have Lu'ay Al-Ashqar for 44 days. The number of hunger strikers only this year, in 2021, only this year, kicked more than 50 prisoners inside the Israeli prisons. Our brothers in the Israeli prisons are forcibly relocated in 23 prisons and detention centers across the so-called Israel. We have many human rights organizations, this Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and other international organizations. They are describing the Israeli prisons as what? As the worst in the world, the worst in the globe. We have, imagine, this is what the Israeli entity, what Israel claims to market itself as a full democratic state. We have 226 Palestinian prisoners who died in the Israeli jails since 1967. Out of whom, out of the 200, we have 75 people, 75 prisoners were deliberately killed. At least 71 were killed due to what? To medical negligence. We have 73 of them as well were tortured to death, or passed away due to the psychological forms of torture. As well, we have deceased prisoners, ill prisoners who are suffering of many diseases and illnesses. Imagine, as I mentioned, out of the 4,000 Palestinian prisoners, we have 600 of them who suffer of chronic diseases or disabilities. 600 Palestinian prisoners. And it's another story if we talk about the children and women. This is another story, actually. For example, Israel so far arrested 7,000 Palestinian child. That the Palestinian child I mean with is the one who's less than 18 years old. For example, since the beginning of this year, those children who are only, they did nothing but throwing stones and raising Palestinian flags and pro-prisoners or pro-refugee, pro-Palestinian cause banners. Israel arrested 1,000 Palestinian kids since the beginning of this year in only 10 months. Nowadays, until the time I'm speaking to our brothers in Malaysia, we have 225 Palestinian children who are still languishing in the Israeli jails. More than 200. We have 32 women. Our sisters, our beloved sisters, are left alone behind bars. 11 of them are mothers. Their beloved kids are left alone, and they are thrown behind bars by the apartheid regime of Israel. Only a month before, just the latest case, the latest story, of a Palestinian mother who got released from the Israeli prison. Imagine, Israel, she's Nisreen Abu Kmail from the Gaza Strip. When she was released from the Israeli prison, Israel denied her entry into the Gaza Strip and kept her in the West Bank. Until the time, with her 6 children, were waiting for him in the Gaza Strip, until she signed a contract that she's not visiting her relatives or family inside Israel, the so-called Israel. Ways of struggle. How those prisoners, how those heroes are struggling against the Israeli occupation. First of which, hunger strike. We have, as I mentioned, dozens of hunger strikers who waged open-ended hunger strike since the beginning of this year. We have collective hunger strike and individual hunger strike. We have a collective hunger strike which remained for 65 days in 1976 in Asqalan prison. We have an individual hunger strike who remained for 227 days for Samir Isawi in 2013. This is the first way of struggle. How the Palestinian prisoners inside the Israeli prison are defending themselves, are struggling. Even inside the prison, those people are defending themselves. Those people are fighting against the Israeli occupation. Those people continue their struggle. We have hunger strike at first, and we have the direct clashes with Israel, with the Israeli jailers, including the rejection of their daily meals and the burning of their tents in a way to show disobedience with the Israeli decisions inside the Israeli prisons. This is the second, direct clashes. And the third, we have the smuggled sperms. Yes, the Palestinian prisoners, after being decades in prison, who have their wives, their beloved, loyal, respectful wives waiting them outside the prison, waiting to reunite with their husbands. We have 99 Palestinian baby, 99 Palestinian baby were born outside for fathers inside the Israeli prisons after their sperms were smuggled since 2012. And around 70 Palestinian prisoners became fathers for the first time from inside the prison after smuggling their sperms. This is a great way of struggle, actually. It's a way to annoy your occupier, to tell your occupier that you are here, that you want to continue your life, despite all the suffering, all the forms of suffering, all the forms of torture. Despite all of this, we have to continue our struggle, even from inside the prison, to annoy those Israelis, to annoy the apartheid state of Israel. And the fourth thing, a fourth way of struggle against the Israeli occupation from inside the prison is something called the Great Escape, the prison break. Have you watched the Shawshank Redemption?
Yes, I did.
Palestinian prisoners managed in different places, different occasions to flee, to break their prison. Palestinians made it real. The Hollywood produced the Shawshank Redemption, but Palestinians produced the Mahmoud Al-Arda's prison break. The Palestinian hero, Mahmoud Al-Arda, who by his spoon and his screw, by his spoon, small spoon and screw, managed to tunnel out from inside an Israeli prison to go out, which was like a very big scandal to the Israeli security forces. How those 6 Palestinians managed to escape, to tunnel out from inside an Israeli prison after being thrown there for years or decades. Salute to Mahmoud Al-Arda. Salute to Zakaria Al-Zbedi. Salute to Muhammad Al-Arda. Salute to all of our great prisoners who are languishing behind bars and who are keeping their struggle even from inside the Israeli prison. And I'm saying, and I'm telling that, I'm claiming actually at the same time, I'm supposing that the Great Escape should be a turning point in the struggle of the Palestinian prisoners' history. It was a turning point, yes, it's a turning point. How and why? The Great Escape showed how much the suffering of the Palestinian prisoners. When those people managed to escape, to get out from inside the Israeli prison, it showed the ugly face of Israel, that those people were treated very badly. That's why they chose to escape. At the same time, it showed their determination to get rid of the solitary confinement. 9 months of digging, 9 months of continuous digging by a spoon and a screw. It also showed how much the Israeli occupation is a fragile entity. Yes, it's a fragile entity. And this entity one day can go. Can be easily defeated once there is a genuine resolve and a genuine determination. Those people, the 6 Palestinian prisoners, they wanted to draw the world's attention to their cause, that their cause is alive, that they are not numbers. They are not numbers. Each prisoner, each Palestinian prisoner, each Palestinian child, each Palestinian woman languishing behind bars, they have their own story. They have their own dream for a very nice future. They have their own hope for a liberated Palestine one day, from the river to the sea, inshallah. I mentioned that they wanted to draw the world's attention. What can the world do? What can the globe do if they manage to draw the world's attention? I think the free people across the globe, they can exert pressure against their governments. They have to reject normalization with Israel. They have to push for cutting ties with Israel, not to receive the Israeli officials on their territories, as the suffering of nearly 5,000 Palestinians is ongoing. And from here, special thanks for our brothers in Malaysia, for the sport minister, the Malaysian sport minister, for the Malaysian officials who have yet to accept normalizing ties with Israel. And they will not, inshallah. We hope, we are sure, we're quite sure that they will not, inshallah, accept any kind of normalization with this entity. As well, free people across the globe, they have to campaign for this just issue. Yes, Palestinian prisoners is a very just issue that should be defended, should be campaigned for in front of the UN agencies, in front of the US embassy, in front of the Israeli embassies, to end the suffering to end the ordeal, the anguish. This anguish, this agony should be ended. At least the suffering of children, of the Palestinian children prisoners and women prisoners. And the third thing, and it's very critical issue, it's knowledge. Knowledge is a critical element too. Those who always show solidarity with the Palestinian cause should know very well what to do and how to do, what to help and how to help regarding this issue. What are the latest figures of the Palestinian prisoners suffering behind the Israeli bars? What is the administrative detention? No one knows. Many people don't know, unfortunately, what the administrative detention is. We have also to continue uncovering the Israeli continuous crimes against Palestinians in general and the prisoners in particular. Most importantly, the crimes against women and children who are withering. Those people are withering behind the Israeli bars. As well, as I mentioned, Palestinian prisoners are not numbers. No, we have, when we cover the Palestinian prisoners issue, we say that 4,000 behind the Israeli bars, 32 women, 500 children. Those are not numbers. Each one of them has his own story, as I mentioned. For example, look to this issue. Now, Israel is detaining corpses, bodies of dead Palestinian prisoners after their death. Look to the Israeli mentality. Have a look on this apartheid mentality. When someone dies inside the Israeli prison, they are keeping his body. They are keeping his corpses. For what? For nothing. Just to show how the face of this entity is ugly. It's an ugly face. No one can wash the crimes are committed by Israel on a daily basis. This is nothing but apartheid. This is awkward and clumsy state as well. And I'm always calling that an international youth movement is needed to defend our just cause, Palestinian cause in particular, Al-Quds cause in our just cause of Palestine in general, and Al-Quds cause in particular, and prisoners cause in particular as well. We've seen people marching for Palestine in Washington in the last war against Gaza. We've seen people marching for Palestine in Washington, in London, in Kuala Lumpur, in Ankara, in Nigeria, in the different continents. We've seen people marching for Palestine. These efforts should be integrated to bear more fruits, to come up with more results for Palestine in the sake of helping and supporting the Palestinian just cause. I'm saying that defending the Palestinian issue is not an ethical motive only. It's a humanitarian, it's a national, it's a religious at the same time. This should be culminated in joining, for example, the BDS efforts, the divestment, sanctions, and boycotting Israel, the boycotting efforts to boycott this entity, apartheid entity. We have also at the same time to continue campaigning via the social media. Yes, social media is exerting big pressure on Israel, uncovering the ugly face of Israel. Brothers in Malaysia and sisters in Malaysia, you have to be voice of the voiceless prisoners. Israel tried its best to keep Palestinian people voiceless, but thanks God, we have brothers and sisters from different places in the world that they are carrying the same hope of helping, aiding, and defending the Palestinian people. Israel will not succeed in silencing us, as we have great and sincere brothers and sisters like you. Finally, we have to continue fundraising for the Palestinian cause. Most importantly, specifically for the families of prisoners inside the Israeli jails, for their children to survive. There is a very ugly campaign by Israel and the United States to pressure the Palestinian Authority to cut the stipends were given to the families of the Palestinian prisoners. Those people not only suffering inside the Israeli prisons, they want their families, their mothers, their fathers, their children, their wives suffer as well. But for sure, we will not allow for their suffering to continue. We have to say stop for that suffering. That's actually what I was preparing to talk about today in this talk. Thank you again for having me in, for hosting me in this show, in this talk. And I'll be very glad, pleased, to have questions to answer about anything vague or anything ambiguous in this issue you want to know more about in the Palestinian prisoners issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ali Abo Rezeg, because of his lecture about the situation. But I'm honestly to tell you, I'm carried away. I want to listen more of this. I want to know the truth behind this, because Dr. Ali has uncovered to us a very fascinating fact. And allow me to make some summary in bahasa Melayu, insyaAllah. Tuan-tuan dan puan yang dirahmati Allah SWT, pada malam ini kita bersama dengan Dr. Ali Abo Rezeg yang membicarakan tentang tajuk banduan ataupun mereka yang dipenjarakan, tahanan Palestin yang dipenjarakan di penjara Israel. Jadi pada malam ini tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, kalau izinkan saya rumuskan sikit sebelum kita pergi ke Q&A session. Yang mana tadi Dr. Ali ada menerangkan kepada kita bahawa kebiasaannya life sentence ataupun penjara seumur hidup lebih kurang 25 tahun saja di mana-mana tempat secara umumnya. Tetapi di Israel, negara Arab Israel, dia adalah sekitar 99 tahun. Ini satu benda yang amat tidak logik sekali. Dan juga beberapa perkara yang menyebabkan anda boleh berada dalam penjara adalah sepertinya membaling batu. Sebab itu kita ada di penjara Zionis Israel terdapat lebih kurang 1,000 lebih, kalau tak silap saya, dalam 1,000 lebih dalam 10 bulan. Dalam 10 bulan pada tahun 2021, kanak-kanak berusia 18 tahun ke bawah ditahan di penjara. Kemudian kita terdapat juga antara sebab dia adalah mengibarkan bendera Palestin. Itu adalah satu jenayah di sana. Dan juga mungkin mengangkat spanduk-spanduk menyatakan sokongan terhadap Palestin. Itu di keadaan di sana. Dan yang paling sadis sekali adalah tuan-tuan dan puan adalah administrative detention, yang mana itu adalah satu polisi tidak masuk akal, satu polisi jahat oleh rejim Zionis, yang mana mereka akan menahan sesiapa saja tanpa charge apa-apa. Kadang-kadang anda berjalan di tepi jalan, anda boleh ditangkap polis dan anda hilang dari khabar, anda hilang, putus hubungan anda dengan keluarga anda. Dan apa yang lebih menyedihkan juga, terdapat lebih kurang 23 penjara atau pusat tahanan di seluruh dunia, di seluruh negara haram Israel. Dan juga banyak lagi lah fakta-fakta yang Dr. Ali tegaskan, seperti ada lebih kurang 75 orang terbunuh, mungkin lebih lagi angka-angka ni. Dan ada juga yang antara dibunuh adalah dengan cara diseksa dengan kejam, dengan cara dibiarkan sakit, tidak mendapat rawatan sewajarnya, menyebabkan kematian. Dan begitu juga ada antaranya adalah disebabkan penyakit-penyakit yang dibiarkan merebak. Mungkin kita boleh kaitkan juga dengan COVID yang berlaku sekarang ni. Mungkin Dr. Ali, is it true the COVID also affected the Palestinian prisoner? The COVID-19, the coronavirus, is it affected our brothers and sisters in prison right now?
Yes, unfortunately, and many of the Palestinian prisoners were suffering from the coronavirus inside. They were affected by coronavirus inside the Israeli prison as well. For sure, there were calls to Israel to release the Palestinian prisoners amid this very extraordinary time, but unfortunately, they didn't accept. And by the way, where Israel was giving the vaccines lately to the Palestinian prisoners after finishing the Israelis, the millions of Israelis, and then started to vaccinate the Palestinian prisoners languishing behind bars inside the Israel prison. This showed, as I mentioned, the ugly mentality, the apartheid mentality of the Zionist state of Israel.
Satu fakta yang agak mengejutkan juga, yang mana saya baru tahu juga bahawa mereka ni dilewatkan pemberian vaksin. Dan juga satu perkara yang menarik adalah banduan-banduan ini dipaksa untuk sign satu dokumen yang menyebabkan mereka ni dihalang daripada melawat ahli keluarga ataupun dilawat oleh ahli keluarga. Itu suatu benda yang tidak masuk akal, kerana saya juga secara personal pernah ada pengalaman dengan penjara, tetapi di penjara Malaysia. Dan sebenarnya di penjara di Malaysia ni membenarkan untuk kita atau kita melawat orang yang berada di dalam dengan beberapa dokumen, seperti kita ni menunjukkan kita ni ahli keluarga, kita ni orang-orang yang mempunyai kepentingan, mungkin kita boleh berjumpa. Tetapi apa yang berlaku di negara Arab Israel adalah mereka menghalang dan mereka memaksa lagi untuk menandatangan supaya dengan dokumen itu mereka kononnya secara sah menghalang dari dilawan. Oleh itu kadang-kadang mereka yang hilang ataupun ditangkap oleh rejim Zionis ini sering kali hilang tanpa khabar, sering kali tidak dapat berhubung dengan mungkin suami atau isteri, mungkin anak-anak, ibu ayah dan sebagainya. Dan juga apa yang berlaku dan itu adalah hunger strike ataupun mogok lapar yang dilakukan secara kolektif dan juga secara individual. Dan cara di Askala sebagai contoh, lebih kurang 60 hari lebih dilakukan mogok lapar secara kolektif, beramai-ramai secara kolektif. Dan juga secara individu, insyaAllah ada individu bernama Samit Sawi lebih kurang 200 hari lebih. Bayangkan tuan-tuan dan puan adalah tidak makan, tidak minum, bahkan mungkin dilayan dengan lebih teruk, lebih 200 hari. Itu suatu yang kalau ekologi mungkin kita sudah kembali ke rahmatullah ataupun mungkin sudah tidak wujud di dunia, tetapi keteguhan orang-orang yang ditahan ini menyebabkan mereka mampu bermogok lapar berhari-hari. Dan lebih juga satu benda yang saya sangat tersentuh adalah bagaimana Dr. Ali Abo Rezeg menceritakan kepada kita bahawa terdapat lebih kurang 99 orang bayi yang lahir tanpa ayahnya kerana ayahnya berada dalam penjara, dan kebiasaannya para banduan ini baru mendapat cahaya mata dan tidak dapat melihat lagi langsung anak-anaknya. Bahkan ada yang melihat apabila anak-anak ini mungkin sudah besar, mungkin sudah 7 tahun, mungkin sudah 8 tahun, dan apabila mereka ini keluar barulah mereka mendapat berjumpa dengan anak-anak mereka. Bayangkan tuan-tuan dan puan, saya juga tak sanggup melalui pengalaman ini. Dr. Ali, we have a question if you read in the chat. This is from brother Muhammad Ismail, his name. He asked, what make Palestinian prisoners so strong and patient with this unfair charge behind the bars for years? Is it clear with you?
Yeah, it's the true belief, brother.
Yes.
The answer is the true belief. Two kinds of belief, actually. The true belief in God, alhamdulillah, they are good Muslims. And another thing, the true belief in their cause. We do believe that we have a just cause and we have to defend this cause. Palestinians from different factions. We have Palestinians, prisoners from Fatah, from the Popular Front, from Hamas, from the Islamic Jihad, from different Palestinian factions. They all agree that we have to sacrifice for Palestine, for our just cause. That this cause worth sacrificing for. That's it. It's kind of it's at the heart of our identity. Not only Muslim identity, it's Palestinian identity. We believe in this. As I mentioned, if we have political differences, on many political differences, but at the same time, we all have one goal, which is Palestine, which is the belief in Palestine and the just cause that should be defended, should be fought for, which is the Palestinian cause. Believe me, it's the belief, the true belief. If you don't believe in your cause, that your cause is not just, for sure, you will not sacrifice for. You will not be patient in sin. It's not a criminal act to cannot be patient for. It's a patriotic act. It's a national act. It's an identity act. That's why they are extremely patient. And they do believe that one day, inshallah, will be released from this prison. If you remember, 10 years before, there was the Shalit deal between the Palestinian resistance groups and Israel. Yes. By an Israeli abductee, by an Israeli soldiers. Yes. We, the Palestinian resistance, managed to release 1,027 of Palestinian prisoners. That's why we have to fight. That's why we have to resist the Israeli occupation. Actually, if we don't resist, if we don't fight, for sure, our brothers and sisters inside the Israeli prisons will stay for decades suffering there. Thank you.
Yeah, I remember that the story, the exchange, the prison exchange between one soldier and 1,000 more than 1,000 Palestinian. And it is a huge embarrassment for the apartheid regime of Israel. And do you manage to meet any of the prisoners after the release?
Yes, I've met with more than 30 or 40.
Any story you can tell us?
They have very great resolve, actually.
Yeah.
They told me, for example, many of them told me that we do believe that Gaza will do something for us. They besieged people inside Gaza. I told them, why? Many of them told us, we are very grateful to Palestinians. We are very grateful to our brothers in Gaza and West Bank. We are very grateful to the Palestinian resistance movements who didn't forget us to language, to, how can I say, to suffer behind bars, who kept our cause alive. That's why we got released. We were released from the Israeli jails. For example, Gaza, people living in Gaza, the blockaded Gaza, the besieged Gaza, and I'm from Gaza, as I mentioned, they paid a very heavy price, brother. After Gilad Shalit was abducted by Israel, by the Palestinian resistance movement. We paid a very big price, but in exchange of having 1,000 of our brothers being released from the Israeli jails, no price is, they worth more than what we sacrificed for, actually. They were extremely happy. They reunited with their families. Most of them got married and they have babies. They became fathers, subhanAllah. And they opened their own businesses. And most of them, by the way, which is very shocking to Israel and very embarrassing to the apartheid regime of Israel, most of them continued their struggle against the Israeli occupation upon their release. Just months after their release, they rejoined again the resistance against the Israeli occupation and the apartheid state of Israel.
Inshallah, Dr. Ali, this is very interesting fact you share with us. But I will make a little second summary for in Malay language. Saya sambungan daripada apa yang Dr. Ali Abo Rezeg terangkan kepada kita bahawa kisah ini sebenarnya sangat-sangat terasing. Inilah satu perkara yang kadang-kadang macam mungkin setengah anda semua melihatnya sebagai satu yang kecil berbanding dengan serangan bom ataupun serangan ketenteraan keganasan ke atas Gaza dan tebing barat. Tetapi percayalah bahawa ini adalah suatu yang sangat bermakna apabila mereka dapat menukarkan seorang tentera Yahudi Israel dan Gilad Shalit dengan lebih kurang 1,200 orang lebih tahanan Palestin. Mereka sangat-sangat orang kata suatu kemenangan yang besar. Kalau anda tengok video-video, klip video mereka dibebaskan, kita dapat tengok mereka ni meraihkan seolah-olah mereka ni mendapat syurga Allah Ta'ala. Subhanallah, memang suatu yang luar biasa. Tetapi perlu diingat sini tuan-tuan dan puan bahawa penjara di sini adalah satu antara Dr. Ali ada menyebutkan bahawa penjara Israel ini penjara yang amat dahsyat ataupun amat teruklah di dunia ni, kan. Mungkin kita selalu dengar penjara-penjara di Guantanamo Bay, mungkin dengan penjara-penjara di Mexico dan sebagainya, tetapi sebenar-benarnya meskipun penjara yang dibina oleh rejim Zionis ini kelihatan baru dan muda, tetapi layanan itu sangat-sangat teruk dengan sesaan demi sesaan, dengan syarat-syarat yang menyusahkan dan pelbagai. Tetapi tadi ada seorang sahabat kita bertanya bagaimana mereka boleh bertahan, dan Dr. Ali menjawab dengan kepercayaan, dengan keimanan yang mereka percaya mereka ini akan dibebaskan. Dan betul sekali bahawa mereka sentiasa menanti-nantikan dan mereka percaya ada orang yang kisah pada mereka walaupun mereka di sebalik jeruji besi. Dan tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, saya sangat berharap anda semua yang menonton pada malam ini adalah orang yang berusaha membebaskan saudara-saudara kita keluar daripada jeruji besi yang mungkin ditahan atas sebab-sebab yang bukan oleh rejim Zionis. Dan itu suatu yang cita-cita tinggi yang kita guna usahakan, di samping kita membebaskan Masjid Al-Aqsa supaya kita semua boleh pergi beramai-ramai menunaikan solat di masjid ketiga paling suci umat Islam. Dr. Ali, insyaAllah, if I may ask a final question, or maybe before you add another fact to us, maybe this out of context, because I do inform that there is some Palestinian being jailed, being imprisoned in some Arab countries. For example, maybe in Saudi, maybe in some other countries. So what is your opinion on that matter? And yeah, maybe can you deliver your thought about the Palestinian being held outside the Israel territory?
Wallah, this is very heartbreaking issue. Unfortunately, yes, we have dozens of Palestinian prisoners are in jail for more than 3 or 4 years in a Saudi jail for their sending support and aid for their brothers in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, just for collecting aid for the Palestinian people inside the occupied Palestine. This is actually a heartbreaking issue. Being present, being put in jail, it was expected from Israel, for sure. Those are our enemies. But having a prison, Palestinian prison, languishing in a Saudi prison, this is something we cannot imagine, actually. This is something we cannot explain. It's unexplainable. Believe me. We have Al-Khudari, for example, he was the official representative for Hamas office in Saudi Arabia in the past. This man is more than 75 years old, and he's suffering from many chronic diseases. But still, this man is thrown behind bars in Saudi Arabia for no big charge. Those people were not harming or affecting the Saudi security, for sure. The Saudi security is a Palestinian security. The Saudi stability, prosperity is our own stability and prosperity, for sure. No Palestinian will dare one day to harm the Saudi security. No, this is Al-Haramain place. This is our most beloved place after Palestine, after Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa and Al-Masjid Al-Haram. They were put at the same level by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No one will dare, as I told you, to harm the Saudi security. It's our big priorities to keep the Arab and Muslim countries peace, stability, and security. We hope, inshallah, one day to have those brothers released from Saudi Arabia. I'm sure there is a misunderstanding. There is something wrong happened. There is a misunderstanding, and we hope that our brothers in the in Saudi Arabia to decide soon to release them, inshallah, from their jails.
Yeah, inshallah. I mean, we will also pray for them, because it is very unfortunate, because previously they are being protected by the regime, and suddenly they're being put in prison, which is something doesn't make sense at all. But I believe, because Dr. Ali said maybe they did misunderstanding, then I believe so. I believe so. We should believe so. There is a misunderstanding then, and they will keep fine, and inshallah being working again outside the prison, inshallah. And Dr. Ali, maybe my last question is, what is your message to all the viewers, okay, to all the audience tonight, that what is something they need to ponder upon these issues, because this issues is a very
marginalized.
Yes, no, it's not common to be discussed. Sometimes in many talks about Palestinian,
yeah, thank you, brother. I know very well that unfortunately people don't have enough knowledge about the Palestinian prisoners issue. But thanks God, we have brothers, we have sincere brothers and sisters from Malaysia, from Turkey, from across the globe, actually, who are making these events to make our cause in general alive, and to make these issues known. The prisoners issue, Al-Quds issue, the Gaza issue, how can I say, the settlements, the expansionist policies of the apartheid of Israel in the West Bank issue, which those people are stealing our lands. Imagine that if you have a land in the West Bank and this land is being stolen on a daily basis. Such programs, such activities, such talks are not only making our cause alive, they keep our anti-apartheid struggle ongoing. We have to continue our struggle. Israel should know that we are side by side with our brothers in the Muslim countries, in the true Muslim countries all over the world, and the free people across the globe. We are not alone. Palestinians are not fighting alone. Thanks God, we have brothers and sisters from different places in the world, and mainly from Malaysia, who are backing us, who are supporting us, who are aiding the needed Palestinian people. Israel, you know, brother, Israel want to slaughter us silently, to kill us, to terminate our cause. But no, our voice is loud. We are not voiceless. Palestinians are not voiceless. If Israel managed to silence Palestinians, we have brothers and sisters on our backs. They will continue defending our cause. They will prioritize our cause to equal our cause with their main cause, or their first cause. The Palestinian cause was, still, and will stay as one of the biggest, as one of the most priorities, or the first priority for all Muslims across the globe, for all free people. We are sure. That's why we are speaking loudly against the apartheid state of Israel. Thank you all, those organizers, for this event. I'm extremely happy, believe me. I'm extremely happy to have people, brothers and sisters from Malaysia, to tell them about the Palestinian prisoners. This is great. And this makes the jailbreak successful. They thought, after recapturing the Palestinian prisoners who managed to flee, that Israel is succeeded to silence their cause. No, we are talking about the 6 prisoners. We are talking about the 6 heroes who managed to flee, who managed to escape from the Israeli prison. Their cause, not only Palestinian people are talking about. No, we have people from Malaysia, from Asia, and people from the US, from London, from different places across the globe, are talking and carrying their issue and conveying their issue to the international platforms and local platforms at the same time. Thank you all, brothers and sisters. Thank you all for this endless support. We do appreciate this, not only from a Palestinian, for sure, in the name of all Palestinians. We are extremely thankful, grateful for you.
Thank you, Dr. Ali Abo Rezeg, because don't worry about yourself. We, Malaysia, we stand tall, we stand firm with the Palestinian as long as we exist here in Malaysia, and nobody can separate us from our Palestinian brothers, inshallah. I believe that, I firmly believe that, because I'm happy because since the attack on Gaza during the Eid, previous Eid, Idul Fitri, if you come to Malaysia and walk around in Kuala Lumpur, in Kelantan, in Terengganu, in Kedah, in Johor, any parts region of the Malaysia, you will see a Palestinian flag being raised everywhere in Malaysia. We are very having
That's
we
true.
really show our solidarity with you guys, and inshallah, and we will not forget those behind the bars, and especially for the 6 heroes managed to jailbreak and managed to embarrassment.
That's why actually that's why actually I'm talking about prisoners issue. It's a kind of how can I say, of telling them, yes, thank you, your message was reached. We got your message, and inshallah we'll keep defending you and your cause.
Inshallah, and it's not stopped there, and we'll keep on continuing as long as it's not still the Malaysia exists in this world, inshallah. And brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, we have reached at the end of the section, and we're very thankful for Dr. Ali Abo Rezeg to join us tonight. And this is not his first and last appearance to this show. Inshallah, in the future we will ask him again to join and discuss more. Discuss more about his area of expertise, especially in the prisoners, because I believe that we never talk quite a lot about that because of time strain. But I believe that the message being delivered clear. Okay, they are really hoping that we keep on supporting them. We may not break the prisoner physically like the 6 heroes do, these heroes did, but with our prayer, with our dua, with our support, with our money and time, inshallah, we will win, inshallah. Inshallah, this is a promise from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. We will win, and we will the Palestinian or the Al-Aqsa will be free, inshallah. So inshallah. And thank you for time, because there is a Dr. Ali, there is a audience saying that the BDS Malaysia will keep working to liberate Palestine. Okay, the boycott, divestment, and sanctions of Malaysian
they are doing a great job. Those BDS people are doing a great job, actually.
Yeah, yeah. I do agree, because I sometimes I did talk with them, and they are very wonderful, very amazing people, inshallah. So thank you very much to our all audience. Inshallah, we will meet again next week with some more interesting topics, and we will bring you the best panel to deliver the thought on Palestine, inshallah. And with that, see you again in next week. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good night.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah. Islam, prihatin, penyayang, sedia berkorban.